Welcome everybody to the full authority meeting for March 17th. Board members, staff, guests, and members of the public are reminded that the full authority board meeting is being recorded and will be posted to the authority's website along with the official written minutes. As such, comments and opinions expressed may be published, and any comments expressed by individual board members, guests, and general public are their own and do not represent the opinions or comments of the full authority or Kettle Creek Board of Directors. The recorded video of the full authority meeting is not considered the official record of that meeting. The official record of the full authority meeting shall consist solely of the minutes approved by the full authority. Any declarations of pecuniary interests? Seeing none, next item is minutes of the meetings for February 10th and February the full authority meeting and February 24th annual general meeting. Any errors or omissions?
Mr. Chair, sorry, Mr. Chair, just before we get to that, could we do the roll call?
Oh, sorry. Yes, go ahead, Melissa.
Dennis Kravitz.
Here.
Stephen Harvey.
Here.
Herbert.
Here.
Jones.
Yes.
Mackey.
Here.
Peters.
Present.
Pelosa. Here. Warwick.
Here.
Winfield.
Here.
Giguere.
Here.
Mr. Chair, we have all 10 members present this morning.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So we'll go back to the minutes of the meetings for February 10th and 24th. Any errors or omissions, concerns? Seeing none, have a mover and a seconder to adopt.
I'll move. Ralph.
Ralph, seconder.
Herbert will second it.
On the
Oh,
motion, Kravitz.
Yes.
Giguere.
Yes.
Harvey.
Yes.
Herbert.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Peters.
Yes.
Pelosa.
Yes.
Warwick.
Yes.
Winfield.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
And that motion passes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Next, matters arising. First is our media report. Betsy, you taking us through that?
Sure, Mr. Chair. Just some sample social media posts since our last meeting. So looking to fill some seasonal jobs at the campgrounds and for our tree planting crew, as well as lots of activity at the campgrounds with our reservation system opening up, and as well as we hosted a workshop on March 9th for equipment modifications for nutrient management.
Any questions for Betsy? I see it didn't take long to start filling campsites. Okay, seeing no any other questions. Motion to receive that one, Elizabeth?
Mr. Chair, if you want, we can go media at project tracking and watershed conditions and then do
All at once.
one motion.
Sure, that's good.
Sure. Just an update on the project tracking. As you mentioned, we have no trouble filling our campsites this year. Just some stats of interest. When we opened March 1st, within the first 24 hours, we had 269 reservations at Lake Whitaker compared to other years where we would have had only about 42 or 34 within those first 24 hours. A similar uptake at Dalewood with 81 reservations by March 1st within the first 24 hours compared to 11 or 14 in normal years. As of March 7th, Lake Whitaker has received 373 reservations and Dalewood 131. So definitely camping is a popular activity headed into the summer. As Betsy mentioned, she hosted an equipment modifications for nutrient management webinar, which was well attended. And Betsy and Jeff conducted 9 sites approved for Forest Ontario 50 million tree program totaling $27,000 in funding. And we've submitted 2 project applications to the WECI program for concrete repairs and vegetation removal at the Dalewood Dam, and hope to hear back on whether those applications were successful by the end of March.
Question?
Go ahead, Jim.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When campers make reservations, do they have to pay a deposit? And if they do pay a deposit and they cancel, do they lose it? Or can they just make a reservation without putting anything down?
Mr. Chair, no, it's a full deposit down. So you pay for the full amount of the campsite. They are able to cancel, I believe it's within 7 days of the reservation, and receive their funds back minus the cancellation fees.
I think that's a great number of people putting reservations in, that's for sure. Thank you.
I know from our own experience here, trying to book campsites for 3 trailers is almost impossible. And you can go across all of Ontario to try and find that kind of situation. There's so many trailers out there in the last couple of years, especially after last year, that were never there before, and it's getting to be a dogfight just to get a reservation. Okay, if there's no other questions, we'll move on to the next report from Jennifer on watershed conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's been, it was a nice spring this year. We had anticipated a pretty big spring freshet with some potential ice jamming down in Port, but the nice warm days and cool nights allowed for all of that ice and the snow melt to just make its way out to the lake. So it was a relatively uneventful spring freshet so far, anyway. The Lake Erie water levels are actually lower than they were at this time in 2019, which is nice. And currently things are looking good.
Question?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So would you assume that the water levels have peaked in the last few years and now they're going to go down, start that downward trend for next few years where the water levels get lower? Is that how it works?
If you look in the long period of record for the Great Lakes water levels, which is about 100 years, they show about a 20-year trend. So every 20 years, water levels either go up or go down. So we're kind of in the middle of a 20-year trend right now. The water levels are still higher than normal, even though they're lower than they were in 2019. If we were to look at the long-term trends, then we'll probably still see higher waters in the Great Lakes for a little while, but it's hard to know.
So will that help the erosion now on the lake? Does that have any big effect when it starts to go down lower? Or is it the storms that bring the water up and make the erosion occur?
Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, if I may, Mr. Chair, through to Jim, maybe I can answer the question on the erosion. Certainly, the lake levels have implications on increased erosion on the bluffs and things like that on the Lake Erie. What we're finding, though, is the increased rates are more related to the lake freezing over. So due to, I guess, climate change and things like that, Lake Erie is not freezing over like it used to in the past. So
No.
when the lake would freeze over to that extent, it would kind of give the shoreline banks and bluffs a little bit of a break for that period. But without it freezing over, we're seeing additional months of that wave energy. And that's what's really creating the predicted increased erosion rates that we're seeing currently along the shoreline.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Jennifer? Seeing no further questions, we have a motion to receive and file the reports.
Peters.
Herbert will second.
Wingfield.
I have a mover of Peters and a second of Kravitz, I believe.
Yes.
So on the motion, Kravitz,
Yes.
Jiguer,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
and Jones.
Yes.
That motion passes.
I think we'll move on to our next submission regarding the budget update from Elizabeth.
Mr. Chair, there was a slight error noticed by staff prior to posting the budget to the public on the website. The levy was misstated by about $609 in the budget summary. The levy that you passed with the motion at the AGM was correct, so $1,016,644, but it was misstated in that on the budget summary sheet, which threw off the total budget number by $609. So just making you aware of that change. It was updated prior to being posted live on the website so that there was no confusion amongst the public. And I'm just asking for a motion today that the amendment to the 2021 budget be approved as presented.
Pelosa.
Mackey.
Mackey. Any further questions or comments? Call the vote, please.
Kravitz,
Yes.
Jiguer,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes,
That motion passes, Mr. Chair.
thank you. Next, reports regarding the Conservation Authority's Act proclamation. Elizabeth?
Mr. Chair, as reported at the last meeting, there was a number of provisions proclaimed on February 2nd, 2021. We briefly went through those at the last meeting. Some amendments, such as the term of the chair and the vice chair and the rotation of those positions, will require Kettle Creek's administrative bylaw to be updated. I did outline those in the advanced report in summary, in a chart summary. I'm proposing that we delay updating our administrative bylaw at this point. Obviously, we will follow the spirit of the new regulations, and we are currently in compliance. But Conservation Ontario is expected to release proposed amendments to that draft bylaw template that we used in terms of our administrative bylaw. And so I'm suggesting that we wait for those amendments to come out from Conservation Ontario so that we can be consistent with changes across the province. One immediate action that I think we should take is required to ask member municipalities to support by council resolution our current member composition. So if we can just go to the next slide. KCCA has always followed the population formula for membership composition of the board. So this means that we look at the population of the municipality within the watershed, and then based on the Section 2 of the Conservation Authorities Act, you're assigned certain members based on that population data. When we look at that population data right now, London has fallen just shy of the 50,000 population required for 3 members. They're currently assigned 3 members, but their population for 2021 is just slightly below that. So at 46,250, which would drop them down to 2 members at this time. The province has said that as long as we're following the population formula, we don't need to come up with an agreement and submit that to the minister. But if we're not abiding by that population formula, that we should have all the member municipalities approve our current membership by council motion. So because the City of London is just shy of that 50,000, but still remains at 3 members, what I'm suggesting is that we do go out to our member municipalities and get approval of our current membership, and then reevaluate those population numbers after the next municipal election in 2022, and reevaluate the numbers at that time, and either keep London at 3 because their population is at 50,000, or suggest that they move down to 2 members in keeping with the formula set out in the Act. So I have drafted a draft letter to be sent out to the member municipalities with a suggested council resolution to that effect. That letter also advises the member municipalities of the 70% rule. So the proclamation on February 2nd included that member municipalities need now to ensure that 70% of their municipal appointees to the CA board be elected officials. And if they feel that that is onerous to abide by, they can request an exemption to the minister. Based on our current representation, that rule would apply to 2 of our member municipalities. Middlesex Centre has 1 representative and currently has a citizen rep in that position. And then the City of London has 3 representatives and appoints 2 citizen reps. So if they wanted to continue in that manner, they would have to seek an exemption from the province. The province has said that member municipalities should do that far in advance of making their member appointments in 2022, and has provided a template which was also put out in the advance package. And so the letter to the member municipalities explains that process, and I offer up my assistance in terms of moving through that process as well. So if we can go to the next slide, is the draft motion. So I'm recommending that the current membership of the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority allocating 1 member to each member, one member each to the municipality of Central Elgin, the municipality of Middlesex Centre, the municipality of Thames Centre, the township of Malahide, and the township of Southold, and 2 members to the city of St. Thomas and 3 members to the city of London be maintained, and further that the membership of the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority be reevaluated and adjusted as required based on population data available prior to member appointments following the municipal elections in 2022. And finally, that this motion be forwarded to all member municipalities for support.
Okay, any questions for Elizabeth? The only thing I see is like the drop in population in London. That seems to be odd that at least 4,750 people. That's a huge number to just not be there anymore. Just whether the count was incorrect before or not, but just seems odd that it would go down that much. Normally numbers go up unless you're in a very rural community where you're having farm amalgamations. But anyway, just so there's no questions. Recommendations before you, mover and seconder.
Loza will move it.
Herbert will second it.
I think that was Warwick. No.
Yes, I have Elizabeth moving and Warwick seconding.
Okay.
So on the motion, Krebitz,
Yes.
Giguere,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
And that motion passes, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Just scrolling down my next. Okay, next report is the COVID safety policy update from Elizabeth. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, what I've provided members within the advanced package is the safety policy summary. And that includes the various different ways that authority staff have been enacted to protect staff at the workplace in terms of COVID. I've also attached an updated symptoms of COVID-19 in the workplace and return to work plan. This policy gives better guidance to staff on how to deal with return to work after suspected or probable cases of COVID-19 and confirmed cases of COVID-19. And on the safety plan summary, it also includes a full list of all the policies and procedures that staff have in place right now to protect us at work and to protect our users and customers in the workplace as well. But what I'm asking today is a motion to accept that safety plan summary and the symptoms of COVID-19 in the workplace and return to work policy be adopted as presented.
I would so move.
Seconder,
Jagger, second.
So I have a mover of Winfield, a second of Jacquer on the motion. Kravitz,
Yes.
Jagger,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Jones.
yes.
And that motion passes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And our next item, City of London Climate Action Plan.
Mr. Chair, the City of London is pursuing a climate action plan and set a target of net zero GHG gas emissions by 2050. The City of London Council will shortly be considering the plan's progress to include community engagement and moving to the next phase of engagement by preparing a plan on climate change mitigation and adaptation. Staff were approached by city staff to support the ongoing development of the City of London's climate action plan. I did forward it to you for your consideration, a draft letter showing support. I think a lot of our programs and services match the City of London's efforts in this regard. And I think it's important that we show support of a member municipality in their pursuit of climate action.
Absolutely. Any questions for Elizabeth? Seeing none, need a mover and seconder.
Mackey.
And seconder,
Winfield.
So on the motion, Kravitz,
Yes.
Jagger,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
Jones,
yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield.
Yes.
And that motion passes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So our next reports from Joe regarding planning regulations. Activity
Mr.
report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In your advanced packages was a report of Section 28 permits issued by staff as well as support for Planning Act applications. We're just looking for that report to be received, or I can answer any questions of the members.
Questions for Joe?
Kravitz moves.
Seconder,
Herbert will second.
Mr. Chair, on the motion, Kravitz,
Yes.
Jagger,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Jones.
yes.
Mr. Chair, that motion passes.
Okay. So that's the end of our open session. Our next authority meetings, April 21st at 10 a.m. For everybody, hope you can make it. And if there's nothing else, a motion to go into closed.
Warwick,
Mackey.
To go into closed session at 10:27, Kravitz,
Yes.
Jiguer,
yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Herbert,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Peters,
Yes.
Pelosa,
Yes.
Warwick,
Yes.
Winfield,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
That motion passes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. It's been a fairly short meeting, so I think we can just keep motoring on once we come out alive.